Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Open Source Leaders Dialogue. It's a pleasure to have you here today. My name is Aibami Adedini, and I'm the Content Marketing Manager at the EnAccess Foundation. The Open Source Leaders Dialogue is a platform where we bring leaders, advocates, experts in the open source industry, particularly for the open source and energy access industry, to come and discuss their challenges, but more importantly, solutions about the open source industry. And today we have a special guest who's going to be sharing with us what is learned over the years and what are the solutions that are currently available in the industry. My guest today is Mr. Dimitris. Hi, Dimitris.
Hello, Ayo. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure.
So could you please, in 5 seconds, tell us who you are and what you do?
Yes, this is Dimitris Mentis, and I am the lead of the EnAccess Explorer, which is the world's first digital public good in energy. I'm with the World Resources Institute.
Okay, great. Now, jumping into the question, my first question is going to be, how did you get into this space? What informed your decision to come into the open source industry?
Thanks, Ayo. So, first of all, I'd like to say that my background is in mechanical and sustainable energy engineering. This is how my journey in energy started through the academic years here in Greece. And then I moved to Sweden to do my master's in sustainable energy engineering and then my PhD in energy and environmental systems. So I was introduced to the benefits of open source energy systems modeling tools during my research stay at KTH in Sweden. More specifically, our then director of the Division of Energy Systems Analysis, Professor Mark Howells, currently the head of climate compatible growth, introduced us to open source energy modeling tools. While there have been a number of open source models or modeling tools, rather, that focused on the expansion of national or regional energy systems, there was not a single open source geospatial solution in the energy access space. About 10, 11 years ago, there was a partnership between KTH and the International Energy Agency to inform the Africa Energy Outlook, which is a part of the World Energy Outlook. And we were requested to develop a least cost electrification analysis, a geospatial analysis, which indicates technology and investment outlooks to reach certain electrification targets using geospatial data and technology in Nigeria. And for that reason, we started developing an open source geospatial solution, which we call Onset Open Source Spatial Electrification Tool, which estimates technology and investment outlooks, as I mentioned earlier. This tool is currently being used by a number of governments, national and subnational governments, by the World Bank and several other agencies. So there has been about 10, 11 years old that this particular tool has been used, and a larger community has been built around it. About 7.5 years ago, I joined WRI, the World Resources Institute, which is a research organization, to lead the development of the Energy Access Explorer. There have been a number of tools, some open source, some proprietary geospatial tools that have been focusing on aspects of the supply side. And we needed to better understand aspects of demand, aspects of affordability. We also needed to create a system which enables stakeholders, whether it's planning agencies, businesses, financiers, development practitioners in the health, education, agriculture sectors, with limited or no GIS capacity, GIS, Geographic Information Systems capacity, to generate customized analysis and identify priority areas for energy interventions. Energy interventions that lead to socioeconomic development, that lead to economic opportunities. And this is what led us to the EnAccess Explorer. So this has been the journey with open source solutions in a nutshell. And why open source? Because we do operate in a resource-constrained environment, and we need to make sure that resources are effectively allocated and effectively utilized.
Interesting, Dimitris. I mean, with such number of years of experience, I'm sure you've encountered some obstacles. I mean, some challenges you've come across, right? So can you list some of those obstacles and how were you able to overcome them?
Thanks. Indeed, plenty of challenges. I'd like to focus on a couple of major challenges. The first one, there is typically a confusion between the terms open source and open access. So many stakeholders, many practitioners misunderstand the difference between open source, which means freely available software, no licensing fees, no subscription fees, and open access, which refers to data or research. A number of proprietary solution providers have quote unquote abused the term open source. Oh, they say to practitioners, how are you going to rely on an open source solution? Anyone can edit your software. This is not how open source functions, right? Someone needs to give you edit rights in order to modify someone's code. Of course, you can take the source code and you can develop, you can adopt it and you can adapt it, and you can develop your own version, but you're not able to modify iOS version of the code unless you're given edit rights to do so. So we need to make sure that we provide this clarification and we make this distinction. How do we do this? Advocacy, trainings, knowledge exchange workshops, raising awareness across different stakeholders, across sectors, so we can help them understand and appreciate the benefits of open source solutions in the energy access ecosystem. Another challenge, spoke about the need to make the distinction between open source and open access and the benefits, and clarify the benefits of open source solutions versus proprietary solutions. Another challenge within the open source ecosystem is the limited collaboration. So a number of open source projects in our space often struggle due to lack or limited collaboration. You may be developing a wonderful solution, a wonderful open source solution, and another organization or another business may be developing a very similar open source solution. Unless the two of us speak to one another, we are utilizing the limited resources in this space to develop very similar solutions. So we're duplicating efforts, we are reinventing the wheel, and that is within the rather small open source ecosystem, right? This is one of the reasons why we joined forces last year with EnAccess Foundation to organize the inaugural Open Source and Energy Access Symposium. So we can bring together the community of open source solution providers, open source solution users, open source solution financiers, and make sure we increase, to the extent possible, collaboration between these key open source players. We will be organizing this symposium once again this year in Nairobi, June 11th to 13th. Another challenge, and I'll stop with the challenges. Another challenge has been long-term sustainability. We may develop something, and then after a couple of years, there are not enough financial resources and human resources to sustain this particular solution. So we need to make sure that governments who are adopters of open source solutions, beneficiaries of open source solutions, financiers, ones that support the development of these solutions, as well as donors, they need to reduce reliance on proprietary, short-term, consultancy type of solutions which are typically not locally owned, and increase reliance on open source solutions in the energy access space.
Thanks, Dimitris. I mean, speaking of that, what do you now see as some of the future use, potential of open source, particularly in the energy access space?
All right. We would like to see open source solutions adopted by a wider community of users. We spoke about governments, it can be energy planning agencies, it can be rural electrification agencies, it can be line ministries in the health, education, agriculture sectors that can use open source solutions to identify priority areas for energy interventions or to monitor, track the evolution of energy projects. We would like to see businesses adopting open source solutions. Why shall businesses adopt open source solutions? Because they can benefit from reduced software engineering costs. Or if they are not developing the solutions and they are using the solutions, they can benefit from reduced software utilization costs. No subscription, no licensing fees, right? Open source can help businesses introduce and increase efficiency. They are supposed to be the owners of these solutions. So again, we are reducing the reliance on proprietary short-term consultancy type of solutions. In order to scale, we do need to conduct numerous trainings. I'd say that the open source community, understandably so, has traditionally focused on raising awareness in larger centers, in capital cities. We're going to conduct a training where we're going to do it in Nairobi. We're going to do it in Abuja. We're going to do it in Kampala. But open source means equitable access to software. How equitable is it really if we stop our trainings in major centers, major cities? As a matter of fact, we have started with the Energy Access Explorer initiative that we are leading at WRI, doing and conducting trainings in smaller centers, in smaller academic institutions. So a wider community of stakeholders can benefit from it today and in the years to come. So benefits for companies, businesses, and benefits for governments, public entities, right?
Yeah, thanks, Dimitris, because I was going to ask you because, for companies, the aim of every company is to be profitable.
Correct.
So I understand that there may be some limitation, like, okay, so if I make this open source, where will I get money?
Yes.
You know, and I like the fact that you've explained that also. But can you focus more on that, like, because I'm looking at more commercial uses of open source, right? So can you focus more on that and tell us more about are there commercial use cases? Are there business cases for commercial use of open source in energy access?
Of course, of course. So let's say you're a company and you want to, and you're interested in expanding your solar home systems markets, right? In order to expand your markets, you need to collect some data and you need to analyze this information. Data on demand, current demand or potential demand for your market, and data on supply, current supply, potential supply. How are you going to analyze this data and identify new market opportunities? You need to utilize a geographic information system, GIS, right? Whether that's Google Maps or ArcGIS, which is a proprietary solution, or QGIS, which is an open source geospatial solution. Or you could utilize the Energy Access Explorer, which synthesizes granular data on both demand and supply and helps users identify priority areas for energy interventions. If you use a proprietary solution, you will have to pay subscription fees or licensing fees for the software. And you need to be paying these fees on a frequent basis, on a monthly basis or on an annual basis. So this increases the costs for your company. If you were to utilize an open source solution, you are reducing the costs for software. You still need to have someone who's going to run the software, but you don't have to rely on a proprietary solution, right? Then there are also larger corporations, larger companies in the energy access space. No need to mention names here, that can also benefit, in fact, from open source solutions. Why? Because you support them in increasing efficiency as opposed to using expensive licenses. So there is a strong potential and strong interest. It's not just potential, it's interest by companies to utilize and benefit from open source solutions. It's common sense, in other words, Ayo. Of course, as we said earlier, open source does not come free of challenges. We spoke about the challenges earlier, right? And as a community, we need to come together and approach these challenges to the extent possible. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dimitris. And with that, we come to the end of today's episode of the Open Source Leaders Dialogue. Once again, my name is Ibami Adedini. I'm Content Marketing Manager at the EnAccess Foundation. And our guest today here so it's Dimitris of the World Resources Institute. Once again, thank you so much, Dimitris. I hope I also look forward to the future of open source, particularly in the energy access space. And I'll be cheering you on from the sides.
Thank you. Much appreciated.